Good evening, viewers, and welcome again to Discovering Truth. And I am Pastor Forbes from the Gateway Abiding Word Ministries, of course, in the Gambia here. Tonight, I want to start what I believe will be a three-part series concerning where we are now as a nation. And I'm going to be extracting some important and crucial thoughts from the Bible that will help us in this journey. But let me start, first of all, by saying that I was really excited to hear the State of the Nation speech given last Saturday by His Excellency, our President, Mr. Adama Barrow at Kariba Hotel. It gave you faith, it gave you joy, it gave you hope, it gave you a whole lot of anticipation and inspiration into where we were heading to. And I'm really glad to see that. I also was quite elated and guidedly so to learn that the Gambians who are out of the Gambia, who are called the diasporan Gambians, who now form the 8th region of our country, contribute something like $200 million back into this country every year. If that's the figure I heard, then that's something like 4.2 million US dollars. And so sometimes we complain about brain drain, but it's almost as if it has a positive effect on us. And we're trusting that as this interface between the diasporan and the home team works together, that a lot of good will happen. There will be transfer of skills, technology, and all that. It will be from us to us. And so I think I had a great weekend, because something else that happened was the launching of the 4-year National Development Plan, the NDP. And I know we are all reading it and trying to assimilate it, and I'm sure as time goes on quickly, there'll have to be ways in which it is fleshed out for everyone to have an understanding, so that it becomes precision-guided, very directional, and at the bottom of it, we bring it into national ownership. And my 2 cents of this is that if it is a national development plan, then it has to be national. National means it will cover everybody, every facet of the society, all stakeholders, as we say. And if it's also national, chances are it would outlive any political party and will outlive even the present government. You know, I know it's 4 years, but there's something about vision. If it's true and it's living and it's organic and it starts getting life, the mistake sometimes we make is we own it as my vision. I always remember many years ago, somebody told us a story in our church, and that story was told us at our 10th anniversary in 1998, when we celebrated our 10th anniversary as a church. And somebody told us a story about a man sitting on an elephant and was being pushed by everybody, and he kept on shouting, "This is my elephant, this is my elephant." And everybody that was helping him let the elephant move stopped, and the elephant stopped. And then he asked, why did they stop? And they said, we stopped because you are saying it's your elephant. You are not saying it's our elephant. And when he said, oh, I apologize, it's our collective elephant, the elephant moved. Obviously, in every dream, in every direction, and in every goal, objective, aim, vision, there is a leader. There is leadership always, because leadership is directional, it's inspirational, it's moving people from point A to point B, even when they don't really think they must get there, but when they get there, they happen. And proper leadership, servant leadership, does it without destroying the people and, torturing them and making them lose their individual self-esteem and all that. But all visions outlive the visionaries. I mean, today people talk about the vision of Kwame Nkrumah. From time to time you hear E.F. Small, you hear Gaba Jahumpa, you hear Nelson Mandela. And none of these people is physically alive today. People talk about Mahatma Gandhi, people talk about Martin Luther King, he was being celebrated yesterday or so. But these are people who have died and gone. Now, if their vision was just limited to their time, then it will be over. And it also does not mean that because the vision has been given by me, then we should be tweaking it, tweaking it, tweaking it, tweaking it. So every time it's following me, because vision is organic, it's living. The age of technology has revolutionized so much things, high-speed broadband internet. We are dancing 4G in the Gambia. There is 5G in operation in some countries, and they are climbing. And so national development plan, national vision, national blueprint, whatever we want to call it, if at the onset we all understand that this should actually outlive those who even envisioned it, we'll all be in a good place. If not, we will either try to run too fast, we'll try to do so much, bite more than we can chew, and rob Peter to pay Paul, and end up with what is popularly called in one West African country, white elephant projects. Because we started, we could not stop. In Wolof we say, Gaspar Sulpa or Sulbuli, Sulbuki, Sulibuki. You are taking from here to make here, taking from here to make here, and nothing is finished. Interestingly enough, there is a precedent like that in the Bible when there was a prophet who unfortunately died and left a whole lot of debts for his wife and 2 boys, and the creditors were coming to take the 2 children away. And the woman, the widow debtor, knew that the only help she could get was from God, and she spoke through the prophet of God, and his instructions were, what do you have? And she said, I have a little jar of oil. And he said to her, go borrow vessels. Do not borrow few, borrow many vessels. And when you bring them into your house, shut the door and pour the oil upon the vessels. And the instruction was that when the vessels are filled, you set them aside, because you cannot do proper business with half-filled vessels. We have a lot of people who wanted to do chemistry, they stopped halfway. They started sewing, they stopped halfway. They went into IT, they stopped halfway. But they want a job, and they cannot get proper jobs because they are half IT, half sewing, half chemistry, half this. You have to fill it up and get everything done. So when we have the understanding that the national vision, maybe for 4 years, would outlast a transitional government, or let's say it was even a 7-year development plan, and a government maybe stays in power for 5 years. After 5 years, if we go to the polls and the government that brought that vision loses, it doesn't mean that the new government must come and throw everything, because when that happens, we keep reinventing the wheel. We never go forward. We do what is called 1 step forward and 2 steps backwards. So my little take on this is that I am excited about it, because eventually it has come out. I'm sure as we go into it with very critical eyes, we will all have comments to make on it, especially to tweak it into a very precise, definitive plan that is not filled with verbosity, but real action plans, and then the M&Es are all in place so we can run with it. Having said that, everything we do, ladies and gentlemen, is precedented in the Bible. Let me read a scripture for you from the Bible in a book called Habakkuk. Habakkuk was one of the prophets in the Bible, and this is what Habakkuk, it only has 4 chapters, or I think 3, and the second chapter, Habakkuk chapter 2, and I'm going to read from verse 2 to verse 4. And this is what Habakkuk 2 says. Write the vision and make it plain upon tablets. It's like inscribing your vision upon walls. Sometimes when you're driving up country, you see institutions, their mottos inscribed upon the wall, painted. That's what is being said here. And this was said thousands of years before we ever dreamt of the power of vision as is taught globally. The instruction here is write the vision, pen it down, and make it plain on tablets, that anyone who reads it will be ready to run with it. That says that you own the vision. You see, it's one thing for a vision to be espoused or articulated. It's another thing for people to own it and add wheels to it and make it move, make it functional. Because this national development plan, program, blueprint, vision, whatever we call it, can just sit down on a table and do nothing. And before this, there was one. Before that one, there was another one. Of late, we've been talking about the Banjul Declaration, about our fauna and flora. Have we really been dealing with that? And so visions and progress reports and conferences and commissions and all that, the white papers are not just to be waved in ceremonies and captured on television. They must all be implemented. Implementation is what gives life to every vision. Implementation is what makes it work. But without a proper understanding of what the vision is, how can I implement what it is? So the instruction here is write the vision, make it plain. You know, if your vision is to go by road from Banjul to Serekunda, that's a very plain, clear vision. You know, you don't want to have a vision that's vague, a constitution that's verbose, policies that, are confusing and vague, or things that sometimes are so textbook perfect that they cannot be practicable in real life. He says, let it be plain, that anybody that reads it can understand. So this is where we are going to. This is the plan of 2018 to 2021. So we are going to run. So in my education sector, health sector, religious sector, business sector, arts and entertainment, human rights, justice, family, commerce, we are all going to run in our respective lanes, but with the same vision, so we get to the same point and synergize. The next verse here says, for the vision is always for an appointed time. There is no vision that you can articulate on Monday morning and it is implemented, finished by Monday night. Then that's really no vision. That's just something you're going to do yourself. But if we look at our history and look at where we have come from and look at what we have to reorganize into proper infrastructure and development and proper best practice come back into our land, then it means that there's going to be times. And that's why all visions have short-term implementation, middle range, long-term, and in between them, there are always the monitoring and evaluation, and there are the tweaks here and there because, real-life experience is different from the classroom. What you're taught in economics that gives you a degree in economics is different from the real life economics you meet when you start working in a company, in the ministry, in a bank, because there are so many external forces that bring to bear their own play onto what you know that you have to keep tweaking and adjusting all the time, but still maintaining the principle of what you want to do. And so it says the vision is for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak. It will not lie. Let me say that one of the joys of vision is that if you are a visionary or if you are a group of people who are envisioning something, from my personal experience, which I believe is the experience of a lot of visionaries, you have seen the finished product in your mind's eye. You have seen it in your heart. You have seen it in your spirit. And that's why you can tell people it's not like that. It's not like that. And that's why sometimes it's important for the people who fashion and craft and envision vision to be able to articulate it for people to understand. Somebody once said that wherever understanding is absent, chances are that communication has been unclear, And when communication is unclear and understanding is absent, there is frustration. We are shouting because, until we all understand and agree that this is the National Development Plan, these are the core values, this is the mission statement of the New Gambia, this is the vision, this is what we will do, this is not what we will not do. By December 31st, 2018, these benchmarks should have been met, this should have happened educationally, health-wise, financially, entrepreneurial, youth enterprise development and all that. If that is not known, we'll all just be hitting each other all the time because everybody will be sincere and committed, but committed to what somebody else is not committed to. And that is why when you are able to articulate that, no matter how long it takes, once you bring people together on the same page, it's easy to implement. In our church, I can say that openly. Anytime we call for a prayer meeting, and we are doing so now because it's the month of January, and annually we spend the whole month to pray and to fast. If it's a 1 hour time, normally we spend even up to 20-25 minutes explaining what we are praying about, because you cannot just assume that people understand. Well, the river Gambia is wonderful. The waterways are navigable. There is a lot of fish. There is tilapia, there is crocus, there is red snapper, there is chough. Let's go fishing. You need to understand what time of the year, where do you fish, what type of nets, what are the maritime laws that we have signed. Are we going to fish all the little fish so that we finish everything? So there's going to be understanding. So those to whom it is tasked at the ministry level, at any level, as long as it is understood, maybe on the television, maybe in workshops, critical workshops where understandings are done. And maybe I should jump into this because I heard Professor Jibril Fall saying last Saturday that in the workshops that were going on, they were not going to have PowerPoints. And I was so glad, because sometimes we come with all this pre-planned bullet points and flip that and change, and we do it all so well, but the people are not following. And sometimes we want to end our PowerPoint because we have 13 slides and we have our flip charts, and I heard him say, this is not going to happen this time. We need to interface and talk. And so if this National Development Plan is going to be owned and maybe possibly retweaked in the next 1 or 2 months, because a lot has come up which was blindsided by all those who did this job, and kudos to all of them who did it, then it means that we need to make it plain and go through it so everybody knows. Because, ladies and gentlemen, as I've always said, the nations we celebrate and talk a lot about, they know what they're about. They know what the targets and the benchmarks are all about, and they make sure they do it. And it ends in saying that even though the vision takes a long time to come, be patient and wait for it, because it will surely or definitely come. It will not linger. So it's even biblical for everything you're doing. Why would I join a company that has no vision, that has no mission? I can't really tell where it's going to. No, there must be vision. There must be a program. There must be an objective. And if it's written, and if it's taught, if it's explained, everybody understands it. To the 5-year-old child, maybe the vision may be, look, if you suck your icy buoy, take the plastic and put it in a dustbin, which also means that dustbins will be provided. It means that on that level, that is what they understand. The children understand that they are children. They talk well, they dress well. They understand that this is their time to build themselves up academically. The teachers understand that the children are not their girlfriends and their boyfriends. If we bring it all to where it matters, we'll see the transformation and the shift. We won't have anybody breathing down our throat. We don't have to have the national security services threatening people, or the paramilitary threatening people, or the soldiers. We don't have to have anybody threatening, because everybody will be committed to it. And if there are regular evaluations, we will all get there. And these are not theoretical things. These are things that happen in successful nations and companies and institutions all around the world. So if all that takes place, then it means that the ball is in everybody's court. If I am a Gambian and I love my country, irrespective of my party, my religious affiliation, my conscience, or what I think, if this captures my thought, if I look to it and say, yeah, what is written there about education is true, what is written there about natural resources is true, where we must drive health to is true, then I must make sure that the way I live and the way I contribute in my own small corner does not deplete resources. I do not deliberately fight the same system. Because when I fight the system, I fight myself. It doesn't mean that the system is totally divine. It is not. And that means it would take corrections. In the words of President Barrow, he said, a government that listens and learns is a government that will go far. And, I go back to that speech and wow, that's the way to go. And if the government listens and learns across the board, not just what they want to hear, but across the board, then in his own words, they will go far. But I think my major point here is just that understanding that when a vision is espoused, it outlives the visionary. The founder of, or founders of Standard Chartered, EcoBank, GTB, Trust Bank could be alive, but they are not here in the Gambia. Apple is still around, but history. But because the vision is bigger than a person, that person or those group of people allow for the vision to take on life in the lives of the implementers. Because posterity and legacy are always yours. And if God spares our lives, sometimes you can come back and say, wow, I instituted this project. Sometimes you can drive around town and you see a certain building, a company, an institution is named after a man or a woman or a family, or an endowment fund is established. And you can tell that it's not just political. You can shake your head and say, yeah, this is true. I passed through the school. I benefited from it. The vision is still going on, but the original founders maybe are not even there anymore. Not necessarily because they are dead, but maybe they've moved on to something. The mistake we will all make is hold on to a vision and drag it all the way down. That is called being selfish. That is called being parochial and narrow-minded. And that is called shortchanging yourself. So I'm glad, as I said, I'm reading through it, and I'm sure in the hearts of those who have prepared it will be able to hear exactly where this should go to. And let's say by 2021, we'll be having a beautiful country, and not just a cliched new Gambia, but a new Gambia that is new in truth, in democracy, in integrity, in respect for people, irrespective of where they are and what they do. And maybe we can export it to other nations. But as I end, let me say what I said last week. Every new wine needs a new wineskin. So as we all read this plan and as it is explained to us, we now have to start making adjustments in our wineskin, our methods of doing things, so that this new wine will fit in and serve its purpose and bring gladness to the nation. At the same time, the wineskins are preserved. I believe the best of us can come out in 2018, 2019, and hereafter, if we choose for that to happen. Because, ladies and gentlemen, that is the best of us in the worst of us. If only we rise and decide that by the grace and the goodness of God upon our lives, and if we place our hands in his hands, the best will come out, because he'll bring the best out of us. So I'm containing my excitement. Beautiful weekend, wonderful speech that I had, state of the nation, looking forward to the one in 2019, expecting it to be full of, we planned this and we did this, we said this and you took it further than we even planned. And then the National Development Plan has come. I want to stop here because this is going to be a foundation. I will try and flesh out certain areas which I will pick out as we move on and tie them in. But let's say that we now have no excuse. We have hankered for this blueprint to come out. It is now out. We will look at it, critique it, and start running with it. And maybe it's going to be our own Gambian dream. And you know, when something is before me as my vision, it makes me focus on it. And I will glance at what is happening in other countries, take inspiration, but this is what I am committed to. And I will give it all my energy, all my strength for it to be the country that I am proud of and a place where my children can boast of anywhere they are in this world. Let me stop here until I come your way next week by the special grace of God. This is Pastor Forbes saying, have a good evening. God bless us all. Good night. And let's all look for a copy, soft copy, hard copy, read it. Let's explain it. And let's run with it. Have a good night.